all toward the goal of open and balanced discussion. Now, how do we deal with cohesion issues? Some teams find it useful to send an agenda out prior to the meetings, although this is not always done. Brainstorming methods are helpful, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. Reviewing the ground rules from time to time and revising if necessary. For instance, perhaps, it turns out that maybe you need to rotate the facilitator or the convener, but you really need to have a check-in every so often about how the team is functioning. Process reviews are helpful. I'll talk about that a bit more. And then just getting to know each other through social activities such as potlucks, after work, picnics, and so on. Now, brainstorming methods, I think most of us probably participated in those. They're not random. It sounds, we're going to brainstorm. But it's not a random activity. It's a structured process. And in this process, the members of the team define and agree on the objective. They brainstorm ideas and suggestions. Often there is, a sticky pad up on the wall, and people, walk around and jot down their ideas. So it does need to be managed. There are many ways of doing that, flip charts, whiteboards, different colors of pens. Then there needs to be an assessment or an analysis of what's come out in the brainstorming, perhaps of ranking and prioritization of some kind. Then the team members, in a democratic fashion, have to agree on the actions and time frame for what has been decided by the group. And, of course, there does need to be follow-up. So that is kind of a brief outline of a brainstorming process. Now, process reviews are used in industry and education, healthcare. It's tied in with QI. And in a process review, you would, for instance, as applied to a healthcare team, you would have team members take turns, which would rotate, following a checklist periodically. And this checklist could include items such as, the team's fidelity, the team objectives, ground rules should be reviewed, discussion as to whether there was an agenda presented, whether the members could speak without interruption, whether time limits were honored, and whether task assignments were agreed on by everyone present. I'd like to remind everybody to please mute. Again, I'm hearing some rustling of papers. That is a little... Okay, thank you. Okay. I have a checklist for team process review that I didn't put up, but I could certainly share with you. So the next challenge is communication. Open communication is key. Conflicts need to be handled as calmly as possible. There needs to be a pre- and full discussion before decisions are made. And the psychological safety will, result in honest and truthful discussions and discourse. Communication is certainly enhanced by modern technology, up-to-date record systems, such as CPRS, regularly scheduled meetings that start on time, end on time. And also, there needs to be at least one person on the team who's an effective liaison with the larger system, and that could be somebody who reports directly to the head of nursing, the DON, or to the chief medical officer, or to the facility director, so that there is a way of, being able to communicate openly and coordinate the team's objectives with the larger organization's objectives. Dealing with team issues or communication issues we talked a little bit about this before. I won't go over all the points here in the interest of time, but often teams will bring in an observer or a coach, or even a mentor, you could call the person, to watch the team and give feedback. I have done that before. It's best not to have an internal individual do that, somebody who's neutral, who can help the team, work through some of their communication issues. I think testing for agreement and decisions, making certain that everybody is on board, and that takes some skilled leadership at times. And then, using the data, I mean, decisions, need to be data-driven to the greatest extent possible. So if there can be data at the table, this will help with communication. The third challenge that teams often face is role clarity. Now, in an ideal world, team members could have, formally, designated roles, and it would be clear of what everybody was doing. It doesn't always happen that way. There's a lot of overlap of position descriptions and disciplines, and I guess that's kind of the downside of transdisciplinary work. But that being said, there needs to be an understanding of, generally the scopes of practice, and as well as what roles can be shared. The team also needs to feel, in every team member, that what he or she has been tasked to do is workable, so people aren't feeling burned out and overloaded. And then coming together to plan on work schedules is very important. When teams run into problems with role clarity, there needs to be a discussion about assignment of roles. It's not always possible to change roles. I mean, we just can't decide we're going to do something else, but I can tell you that out of the PAC training I participated in a couple of weeks ago, the facility decided to change the title of, at least locally, of the RN clinical associate, and to talk about some slight nuances there. So if you can empower team members, within limitations of the system, to adapt their job descriptions, that is indeed empowering. An excellent team leader will periodically clarify, discuss team roles and expectations in a group meeting, and I think this goes to Dr. Chernoff's point that, a democratic leader is great a lot of the time, but sometimes she might need to be a little bit more autocratic in terms of what needs to be done and how it gets done. I do think that there needs to be, again, that environment of psychological safety so that folks feel able to question actions and to question roles in an open and honest way. The fourth challenge that I'll talk about briefly are the transitions issues. Now, this is a huge body of work. It's a very big topic now. I really can't, obviously get into it in great detail. But this is where so many patients and clients fall between the cracks. It's in the transitions. The handoffs are inefficient. We get into problems with, medications not being properly transferred from place to place. And so, there are new decision makers, there are new teams, you have to negotiate the VA and the non-VA systems, and I think it's well documented what poor transitions can lead to, medication errors, stress, death, I won't go into all of the negative outcomes, but there are myriad. So how do we deal with transition issues on a team? Obviously, I think you need face-to-face meetings. You can't, distant means, just reviewing charts, electronic charts, blinded emails, just are really, a setup for disaster much of the time. You need to have collaborative working relationships with other teams, both in your institution and out of your institution, whether, if you work with community-based hospice, if you're in the VA. You need to have those face-to-face meetings. I know that we do that here at the Bronx VA. And then the communication around admission, discharge, test, meds, and follow-up. Those are real error-prone points in the transition chain. And keeping family in the loop, of course, is essential to ensure a smooth transition. The last challenge are the team phases. You may have heard about these phases, and they're not fixed. It's not like you go from 1 to 5 and you stay at 5. Teams are fluid. This came from the work of Drink and Clark, and it's been in the literature now for, well over 20 years. And, you see it here. You have this formative stage, the norming, where everybody kind of gets into the culture of the team. Sometimes there's a confronting stage, also known as storming stage. They're called storming and confronting are both used. Performing stage thing is when folks, retire, go to another work setting, I think we always need to remember that there is always head turnover. Students come, residents come, social work interns. Teams have a lot of new folks coming and going, so we should never take anything for granted. We've got to make certain that those folks are introduced and feel comfortable in the culture of the team. And there are a number of ways to deal with transitions. And oftentimes a coach or an outside observer is brought in when teams are having problems in terms of performance in the storming phase. And I think an outside facilitator can help with an open discussion. Again, we have to remember that rituals are important. So palliative care teams start with a ritual, reading a poem, for instance. There are many ways to establish the particular culture. So at this point, because we want to leave some time for discussion, question and answer, I'm going to review the take-home points from my talk. Teams are not accidental. They obviously take a lot of work. Healthcare teams are quite varied in their structure and processes, and if you've seen one team, you have really seen one team. It's not just something that's inherent. Having some explicit knowledge and having some skill development about working on teams is quite important. There needs to be ongoing work on team maintenance. Just, you can set up a team, but it's, things happen along the way to challenge the team, as I have outlined in those 5 common obstacles. And finally, managing team dynamics is the responsibility of all team members. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about a pilot program out of the Geriatric Scholars Program, which is which is sponsoring this webinar. Dr. Josie Kramer of the West LA VA obtained funding from the VA Office of Rural Health for the Geriatric Scholars Program over 3 years ago. And now in our rollout this year, in this fiscal year, we have a new component called Rural Interdisciplinary Team Training, or RIT, and we're piloting some team training at community-based outpatient clinics in rural settings. We have most of our pilot sites lined up for this training. We still have potentially 1 or 2 openings. If you're interested, please contact me directly at my email that's on this slide. So thank you very much. And Faye, do I turn it over to you now?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. House, for this presentation. Does anybody have any questions? We could spend our next 5 minutes on Q&A.
Ronnie, I'm sure you do.
Well, no, I actually wanted to reemphasize the point that you made relative to what I think are the 2 major parts of the basis of good teamwork. And the first one, and you mentioned these, I just wanted to reemphasize, it was role clarity, and that everybody understands that the team is greater than the sum of its parts, and that everybody having a defined role and relinquishing control when it's somebody else's area of expertise is sometimes a challenging thing in teams. And one of the ways of really making that happen is the second point that I wanted to reemphasize that you made, which has to do with clearly established communication channels and being able to share information with all the members of the team and accept information from all of the members of the team. Communication, this was something that I talked about in terms of leadership. Sometimes the key to communication is listening, and part of that is having respect for whoever it is that's giving input at any one time without really losing the focus of what it is that we are doing as part of a team, which is taking care of our patients. And I just wanted to emphasize those points because I think that they are the basis upon which all the rest follows. So thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chernoff. So if anybody would like the PowerPoint presentation, are there any more questions from any of the participants? Okay, well, if there are any questions later on, you could always contact the program manager, lauren.jones@va.gov. I'd also like to say that if you would like to download the PowerPoint presentation that Dr. Howell has, you may click on the handouts icon on the top right, and you can download the assessment from Mr. Rosario's at DVD, and also there's a PDF of her PowerPoint presentation of managing team dynamics. So,
I'll get the video downloaded? No.
So on behalf of the Geriatric Scholars Program, I would like to thank you, Drs. Howe and Chernoff, for this great presentation. Please contact your Vision Satellite Coordinator for the Scantron sheet using the following link, which I had said earlier. And if you would like that link to be sent to you, please contact the Program Manager at our hub site, lauren.jones@va.gov.
Now, I'm just interested. Thank you, Faye, just because we have a few minutes. Are there any non-VA people on this call? Because I know it's co-sponsored by 2 geriatric education centers. So everybody is a VA person.
Judy, can I interject here? For those of you who are on, we did 3 programs last year and one earlier this year, about a month ago. And they are last year's and the ones from this year will be available on a website called POGO-E, which has a lot of geriatric training materials available. And I don't know if we have a link to that, Faye, but there's a lot of material that's been loaded into POGO-E relative to care for geriatric patients that might be relevant, and particularly for those of you who this is your first webinar with us or missed the ones last year. Those are available on that website.
Yeah, so the website is
I'm putting it up right now. Everybody can see this, right?
Yeah.
www.pogoe.org. Okay. See, I just typed it up there. Can you all see it?
No, but...
Oh, you can't?
I can't, but that doesn't mean anything.
No, I can't see it either.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I was being...
Well, it is www.pogoe.org. It's POGOE.org. And if you guys would like the link sent to you, please contact our hub site program manager, Lauren Jones, at lauren.jones@va.gov.
Yeah, there are a lot of excellent geriatric curricular materials.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Adiós.